"You're not supposed to talk," the stranger hissed, eyes locked on the royal guard's face. "But this is life or death." His voice was low, urgent, cutting through the calm like a blade. The guard, face stoic beneath his bearskin hat, tightened his grip on his rifle. He had just 15 minutes left of his shift. The sun had started to dip behind the gates of Buckingham Palace, the golden hour casting elongated shadows across the cobblestones. Tourists were trickling away, laughter echoing faintly behind cameras and waving flags. But this man, this stranger, stood too close. Way too close, his clothes disheveled, eyes darting, hands trembling with something more than nerves. "Step back," the guard barked suddenly, breaking the sacred silence he'd kept all day. It startled a few tourists nearby, who gasped and turned to watch. The stranger didn't budge. He leaned even closer, just within breath's reach, and whispered a single word. "Foxglove." The guard blinked. A shiver shot down his spine. That word, it wasn't random. It was a military code. One only used in classified operations, one he hadn't heard since his days in special forces. It was never spoken lightly. It meant imminent danger. It meant someone was about to die. He scanned the area, eyes sharp behind the mask of stillness. Nothing looked out of place, until he noticed it. A man in a suit on the rooftop across the square. Another blending into a crowd, staring too intently at the guard's post. It clicked. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. "What's your name?" the guard asked, barely moving his lips. "No time," the stranger replied. "They're already inside." The words dropped like lead. Inside the palace? Impossible. Security was airtight, cameras everywhere, guards posted at every entry, but the stranger's eyes weren't lying. They were filled with something no spy could fake. Fear, pure, blistering fear. The guard shifted his stance and pressed his earpiece. Alpha 2 requesting immediate lockdown, potential breach, code red. The operator's voice stuttered back. "Say again?" "Code red," the guard repeated, louder. "Foxglove confirmed." The line went dead for a second, then chaos erupted in his ear. "Copy, initiating lockdown. All units converge." Inside the palace walls, alarms began to ring, discreetly at first, then blaring. Guards in suits rushed to doors, locking them down. Tourists were ushered out with feigned smiles and firm hands. The quiet majesty of the royal grounds was instantly swallowed by urgency and code speak. The stranger tugged the guard's sleeve. "They're after the Duke, a hit, in the East Wing. They planted a man weeks ago." The guard's blood ran cold. That wing was restricted, accessible only to senior staff and security. Whoever got in had clearance. He turned to the man, finally breaking formation. "Who are you?" The stranger looked away. "MI5, off book. I was embedded, but they found me out." The guard's training surged forward. He stepped off post, drawing his weapon low. "You're coming with me." They sprinted behind the palace barrier, through a side entrance. Inside, security scrambled, agents yelling, radios buzzing. The guard led him through tight corridors, heart hammering. He hadn't run like this in years. But adrenaline erased the pain, then a voice over the radio. "East Wing secure." No sign of suspect, but the stranger shook his head violently. "They're hiding in plain sight. Security detail. Check Lieutenant Bramwell." The guard's eyes widened. Bramwell. Decorated, trusted, he even trained him once. But suddenly the puzzle snapped together. Bramwell had just transferred from a covert post in the Middle East. No family, no background check failures, too perfect. The guard stormed toward the wing, badge flashing, gun raised. A few startled guards stepped aside. Inside the Duke's suite, Bramwell stood by the door, smiling. Calm, too calm. "Lieutenant," the guard called out, "step away from the door." Bramwell tilted his head. "Is there a problem?" "Code Foxglove," the guard said slowly. "I said step away." Bramwell's smile faltered. His hand twitched toward his belt. But it was too late. The guard tackled him, just as something metallic slipped from his sleeve. A blade. Not a standard-issue weapon, not for protection, only for assassination. Agents swarmed in seconds later, disarming him. The Duke was unharmed, standing frozen behind the door. "What's going on?" he asked, pale. "You were 5 seconds from death, sir," the guard replied breathlessly. 5 seconds. Bramwell was dragged away, silent, eyes empty. The stranger, leaning against the wall, slid down and sat on the marble floor, exhausted. In the aftermath, the investigation confirmed everything. Bramwell had been recruited, brainwashed, and inserted into royal security months ago. The plan was meticulous, the date calculated, and it would have worked, if not for the code word, if not for one man who remembered his oath, who stayed alert even as his shift ended, who listened. The guard returned to duty the next morning. Tourists smiled, took photos, none knowing they were standing in the presence of a man who had just saved the monarchy. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The silence now held weight, reverence, because sometimes a single word can unravel a betrayal. And sometimes a man trained to stand still is the one who moves the fastest when the world needs him most. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button and drop a karma in the comments below.